Hi, YouTube, family, friends, and my Keto Granny's Way champions. Today, today's Let's Talk About It Tuesday is a rant. I heard a perplexing story about a young diabetic, newly diagnosed diabetic young lady, and her story was it upset me greatly. I was very perplexed about her diagnosis, how it came about, and what she went through before she was diagnosed. Okay, as you read in the description, this my disclaimer. Okay, understand that you don't want to start anything, any food or exercise programs before doing your own research and consulting with a PCP who is knowledgeable in the area of diabetes. Okay. Now, the story, one moment. I have my notes because I can babble and I can go off, and I don't want to do that. So I have notes that points that I want to cover. Okay. So welcome. Today's topic is what you need to know newly diagnosed as a diabetic. 5 questions a newly diagnosed diabetic must ask. Okay, this is the story that I heard about a young lady newly diagnosed with diabetes. The story disturbed me so much that I wanted to talk about it today on Let's Talk About It Tuesday. She went to her primary care physician complaining of urinating, excessive urination, a lot of eating, excessive appetite, a lot of blurred vision, and always thirsty. Her doctor ran routine blood tests, and her doctor calls her and informs her, because there was blood found in her urine, that something was wrong with her kidneys. So she recommended she see a kidney specialist ASAP. Her symptoms continued as she went to the specialist for about 6 months, being treated for her kidneys. No one in her family, she said, has diabetes, suffered from diabetes. So it really upset her. She was scared, uninformed as to the care and the feelings, like her life was over. Okay, so her primary care doctor prescribed her insulin therapy after calling her for her 3-month routine checkup. She called her and let her know that it was not her kidneys, that it was full-blown diabetes, and she had an A1C of 7.1. So she discussed her education and research that is currently out here for newly diagnosed diabetics, treatments and causes, management and maintenances. There is new research. There is research out here. There are testings. There are reports. There are, even the ADA has said on their site that type 2 diabetes can be maintained long-term without meds. So the young lady left her doctor office bewildered, baffled, scared, and overwhelmed, not knowing what her future would look like being a young lady in her 40s. Now, this is what really upset me, or I was perplexed. I won't say the PISSED word, but that's really how I felt. The doctor prescribed insulin therapy metmorphin for her to take without giving her the necessary tools to monitor her blood glucose, that she wouldn't know what her blood glucose level was, or if the medicine was actually working, if it was actually regulating her sugar. But she did give her a prescription for metmorphin. So this story right here really got me feeling very a certain kind of way. It really did, because so many people are senselessly dying from diet-related illnesses when they don't have to. Okay. How do you get diagnosed with a 7.1 A1C and do not get a glucose meter so that you can test your blood sugar to see if it's high, if it's low, if the medicine is working or not? This is very upsetting to me, you guys. I apologize. Because my husband passed away from type 2 diabetes after suffering with it for 12 years. I had no education on diabetes other than they take insulin and they're not supposed to eat sugary stuff, sugary foods and things, okay? So after his death, I became an advocate to research, to get the newest research and the information, education that's out here for newly diagnosed diabetics, type 2 diabetics, and the obese community, because they have, I am part of that, been hoodwigged and bamboozled to believe that this condition cannot be reversed, that it is a ever climbing or ever escalating condition. And that information is just not true from my research. Okay, so that's the story that got me perplexed. And this is the information I want to give you. If you are suffering from any of these conditions, any of these symptoms, because if you go to the doctor and do not have these symptoms, they are not going to automatically test you for high blood sugar. They're not. So I've come up with 5 questions that you need to ask your primary care physician after your diagnosis of prediabetes or diabetes. Question 1 and 2. What test did you take for my diagnosis and what is my A1C? The 3 tests that they usually take to diagnose diabetes is a fasting blood sugar, a glucose tolerance test, and a A1C, hemoglobin A1C test. There is one test, though, that can let the doctor know how much insulin your pancreas is producing. But that test costs a lot if you do not have insurance that will pay for it. It's a C-peptide test. So if you're diagnosed with prediabetes or diabetes, ask them what test did they take to come up with that diagnosis. And if they do not mention the C-peptide, ask them will they do that test to find out how much insulin or how less insulin your body is actually producing. Question 3 and 4. These are must-needed questions you need to ask your primary care physician. Can it be reversed and managed without meds long term? From what I understand about what people and doctors have said about diabetes is there's no cure for it. There's no reversal, and that you'll always be on some kind of med therapy. I beg to differ. I've even seen on the ADA, American Diabetes Association, I've even seen on their website where they stated, Google is your friend, Google it and find out. Type 2 diabetes can be maintained long-term without medicine. If an illness or disease is caused by diet, why would you prescribe medicine? And can it be managed long-term without meds? Yes, it can. It can be managed without meds also. So 3 and 4, remember these questions. If you got some paper and a pen, write these questions down, because if you are newly diagnosed, pre-diabetic or diabetic, you need these questions answered so that you could be put in the best hands with the best team of specialists that is going to work toward your better quality of life worth living. Okay. Number 4 and 5. Do you have more, ask your doctor this, ask your PCP. Do you have more than 1% lecture knowledge about nutrition taught in med school? Did you guys know that most med students or medical doctors only have less than 1% of the lecture knowledge that they need in nutrition? That's another reason why I believe doctors will automatically prescribe meds than alternatives to management, to causes, to management, to maintenance for a person who is diagnosed with diabetes. So don't be afraid to ask them what their education is about diabetes. Because if they're just a medical doctor, as a med student, they only get very little lecture knowledge on nutrition. Okay. Number 5, if their answer is no, if it's no, ask them to give you some recommendations for a specialist. A specialist that specializes in diabetes is an endocrinologist. They have expert knowledge, and they will work with expert nutritionists. They'll work with a team. They'll build you a team that will work towards a healthier life, quality life, worth living, how the cause is, how to prevent, how to manage, and how to maintain a low blood sugar or a low A1C, which high A1Cs put us at an extraordinary high, great risk of heart disease, stroke, amputations. It puts us at risk of premature death, high blood sugar, long periods of time of high blood sugars. And a lot of times people are not even diagnosed with diabetes or pre-diabetic diabetes until they have an A1C of about 6.2. Now, the normal range for an A1C that is normal would be 4 to 4.3. Some people say they take it up to 7 and 8. But if your A1C is 5.4, that is an indicator that you really need to start looking at your diet and start minimizing the refined carbohydrates that you are eating or drinking. 5.3. Now, 5.8 5.5 to 6.2. Well, 6. 5.4 to 6 point A1C is usually pre-diabetic. At this point, your doctor should be educating you on what you should stop doing or what you should start looking at as to starting to lower that A1C to a normal, get into a normal range. About time people get diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, it's time for them to take medicine. And that's usually at a 6.2. They'll watch your blood sugar for about a year if you pre-diabetic. They'll watch it and tell you to don't do this, don't do that, don't eat this, don't eat that. But they won't prescribe medicine. But at 6.2 or 6, pre-diabetic, the microvascular system is already being affected. Those tiny blood vessels that lead to our major organs, our eyes, our heart, our lungs, our liver, are starting or have started to be damaged. Our beta cells, which create insulin, and overtaxed pancreas. The beta cells could be destroyed to a place to where you may have to use insulin therapy because your body no longer produces enough insulin, even if you practice low-carb dieting. And you cannot live without insulin. That's why type 1 diabetics have to have an insulin therapy. However minute, they have to have it because within 2 weeks of not having insulin, you would be dead. Okay? So remember these steps, these questions right here. These are pertinent. They are important. You got to, if you got a pen and paper or a recorder on your phone, these are the top 5 questions after newly being diagnosed diabetic. And the sooner you're diagnosed diabetic, the easier it is to reverse it. The less damage that can be done at a pre-diabetic stage. If you're diagnosed with a 5.4, that is your time to start looking at your diet. The refined carbohydrates that you're eating or that you're drinking, not vegetables. Your diet should be at least 75% plant-based. When I say plant-based, I mean whole grain, fruit and vegetables, a balance. When I say whole grain, I mean all 3 other components of the grain is ground up and made into that product. And on the label, it has to say 100% ground whole wheat flour or whole wheat grain, whatever it is. It has to say 100%. It cannot say fortified. It cannot say that. That would be a lie. So it has to be on the package. Whole grain means that the endosperm, the bran, and the kernel has been ground up and made into that product. That is whole grain. So many of these products that's out here say whole grain or they say whole wheat. Whole wheat and whole grain is 2 different things. You want to look for products that says 100% whole wheat. Okay? Now, get a pen and paper, write down these questions that you need to ask your doctor after newly being diagnosed. We're going to go through them again. Question 1 and 2. What test did you take for my diagnosis and what is my A1C? If they do not mention a C-peptide, then inquire as to how you can get that test. Okay? That's pertinent. That will let them know and you how much your pancreas, how much insulin your pancreas is producing, how much damage has been done to your pancreas in the interim of time that you were not diagnosed. And if your beta cells, if you have enough of them yet to still produce enough insulin that will allow you to control your diet, your diabetes with diet. Okay. 3 and 4. Can it be reversed and managed without meds? Google is your friend. Do research. Do your research. Don't just accept the diagnosis of one doctor, especially if they are not specialized in diabetes. Okay? Find you a PCP who is specialized in the treatment, management, prevention, and reversal of diabetes. Okay? Without meds, long term, yes, type 2 diabetes can be maintained and managed long term without medicine. It's diet cause, and diet can treat it. And 4 and 5. 4 and 5, do you have more than the 1% lecture knowledge about nutrition taught in med school? If not, ask to be recommended to a specialist. Medical doctors, medical students are not given a lot of teaching in the area of nutrition. And type 2 diabetes is a diet-related illness. So you want to have a specialist, you want to have a doctor, a PCP who is knowledgeable, who could come up with a team that can give you the best information and education that you possibly can have. What happened to this young lady right here? She slipped through the cracks. I feel. And then too, it could be just because of a lack of knowledge because of her PCP. They cannot treat everything, especially a diagnosis of diabetes. Okay, so I thank you for being attentive, giving me your attention. This was a rant for me. I just have to get the information out. I am an advocate for diabetes and obesity. My platform is all about how to stamp out obesity and teach information, strategies, hacks, tips, and more. How you, if you're diagnosed with it, can live a healthy, wonderful, quality life worth living, eating foods you love and fear while maintaining a fat-burning metabolism. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with this. Knowledge is only powerful when you apply it. Only powerful when you apply it. Okay? And change will only happen when changes happen. Until next time, be a little selfish. Take care of you and the ones that you love. Let's not see another senseless death of a loved one or even ourselves or amputation. Diabetes is the 7th leading cause of death and the 4th leading cause of lower body amputation. I lived through that with my husband of 2.5 years. And my daughter was recently diagnosed a year ago with diabetes. And with the knowledge I have about diabetes, I cannot and will not allow her to die prematurely because of ignorance on the doctor's behalf. So until next time, come on back to fat, y'all. Take it off your hips and put it on your lips. Ketogranny's way. Until next time, ask questions. Don't be afraid. Google is your friend. Don't be afraid to talk to your doctor. And if they don't answer your questions, then seek a second opinion. Okay? Ketogranny's way. Until next time. Bye-bye.